welcome back. Thank you very much for joining us today. I've got Jamie Adamchuk. Jamie, why don't you introduce yourself?
What's up, everybody? It is my true, absolute pleasure to be here today. John, thank you so much for bringing me on, sharing some of these insights. A little bit about myself. I'm an NLP master practitioner. I'm a certified professional coach. I work for one of the top coaching agencies in the entire world. I've got my own business, and the idea behind what's going on right now, I think we're going to touch on it a little bit today. I'm hoping to share some tools, some strategies, and some mindset behind how to keep you looking for those opportunities.
Very cool, man. Yeah, and it's it's early April right now, so I think it's safe to say that everybody's pretty aware of the situation and the transformations about how their life has evolved into what it is currently, and working from home, which is something that you're very familiar and I'm very familiar with. But there's a lot of nuances that go with that. One pro might be that people think like, I don't have to commute. This is fantastic. I get to save an hour a day. But another one might be, wow, there's a lot of distractions at home that I didn't realize because I've never had to do it. Maybe I don't have an office, or maybe the kids or the dogs are loud or whatever. So I think it provides a lot of opportunity and possibly some adjustments on people's behalf too. But hopefully everybody's being safe out there. And yeah, we just want to offer some guidelines and some information and tips just to kind of keep people moving forward, right?
Absolutely. That sounds great.
Cool, man. So I want to do a bit more of a background, actually, because
cool.
Full disclosure, I've known Jamie for over a year, and I have the great pleasure of coaching with him, and he's a phenomenal resource. But something I've never actually asked you is, why did you get into coaching?
Interesting. So my background, believe it or not, it's actually where I came from, had nothing to do with coaching whatsoever. My background, if you want to call it that, is a parts person. I used to sell automotive parts, got into the heavy duty parts, worked for the largest equipment dealership in the entire world. And I found that what I would look for, what I was most excited for, is when it came time for reviews. When it came time to sit down with the people that were working with me to really go through and find the opportunities for them to make improvements. I love that part of it. Right? I love to be able to take the time to strategize with them, to find those opportunities for them to move ahead, whether it was gaining more tenure with the company, moving up in the company, becoming that supervisor, manager, whatever it was, and provide those strategies with them. What I didn't like about it, though, is like many companies out there, review time only came once a year. So here I am. I'm working away, doing the rest of the stuff through the year, getting excited for review time. Review time happens. I'm in my glory. I'm doing what I absolutely love, what I've got a passion for. And then, boom, I'm waiting another 8, 9, 10 months to start prepping for review time. It was then, at that point, that I recognized, man, what if I could do this all the time? What if I could actually go make a difference in people's lives, help them strategize, help them get that right mindset right away without having to wait that 9, 10 months? Got looking into it there and signed up with a coach training program, got my coaching certification, and really made the transition at that point because I knew that the knowledge that I had, that I'd gained from that point, the personal development, everything that I had done up to that point, I had to get it out of me. I had to go and serve. And that's really how it kind of came about.
That's pretty cool, man. So heavy equipment parts salesman to world coach. I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. And you touched on something that I think is so critical to talk about just briefly, which is like review, and you say that you do it once a year, right? And I attribute this to every part of a person's life, whether it's your health, whether it's your state of mind, whether it's your intimate relationship, whether it's the relationship with your peers at work, or whether it's your finances or your business goals. If you only looked at your personal bank account once a year, like, man, I think that would create so much chaos and stress in somebody's mind, because all the time they would be like, okay, where's things at? What's going on? What do I not know? And how do you correct, right? You get a whole year and then you find out that you owe 20 grand to the government. And it's like, fuck, I wish I would have known about this 11 months ago.
Yeah, exactly. If you're waiting for that only once a year thing, whether it's goals, the example that I like to use is New Year's resolutions. I'm sure we're all familiar with New Year's resolutions. Here we are. It's December 31st. My gosh, the ball's going to drop in New York. All these things going on. It's like, hey, let's set some New Year's resolutions. So we go, I'm going to go to the gym. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. We work on it for 1 or 2 months, and then we forget about it until next December 31st. We're like, man, well, another year. Guess I didn't get that. I guess I better reset them again. What it's all about is not just doing it one time a year, but getting into the practice of doing it constantly. One of the things that I share with my clients, especially when we're coaching, when we're jumping in, is to have those goals out in front of you. Look at them on, a weekly, if not daily frequency, to make sure that they're front of mind. Because if we don't do that, we're going to forget, and we're going to get distracted with all the other things that are happening in life.
Yeah, it's so funny because like now hearing you say that after a couple of years of personal development and really focusing, and after meeting you a year ago, like it's like, oh yeah, that's common sense. But I was that guy, like ambitious, super hungry, and January 1st comes and I'm just destroying the paper. Like, I'm going to do everything this year, running out of pens. Like, I'm going to kill everybody's world. It's going to be mine. And then like by March, that juice kind of fizzles out, and I've probably made headway and momentum in a couple areas, but I'm like forgetful of what I even started, why I wanted to do it, which way I'm going. I have no direction. And then I find you lose that emotional connection to those goals, and they don't really become as important, or you convince yourself they're not as important, and then you leave them alone.
Absolutely. If we're not associating ourselves all the time with that outcome, if we're not constantly looking at it and finding that way to track it, but maybe even more importantly, find the way to fit it into that schedule, we're going to miss out on that. I want to share something. Is it okay if I share something, John? Is it okay if I share a strategy?
Yeah.
Okay,
share
cool.
away.
Right? Straight up. One of the things that I talk about a lot in coaching to make sure that we're achieving our outcomes, to make sure that we're achieving those goals, is all we have to think of it like this. It's just a puzzle. Each and every day is a 24-piece puzzle. We've got 24 hours in each and every day. Now, for the most part, 6, 7, 8 of those hours, those sleeping hours, they're already in place. We don't have to put those puzzle pieces in. They're already in there. You're hitting the bed at 10, 11, 12 o'clock at night or whatever. You're getting up at 5, 6, 7 in the morning, whatever it is. Those pieces are already pre-filled in. That makes it easy. It's the rest of the stuff to make sure that you get in there so that you get all your stuff done. With your goals, there's always actions to take. There's some sort of navigation that you have to take in order to get you to your ultimate outcome, your ultimate destination, right? That's those action items. Now, the action items are the pieces of your puzzle. We're going to take those action items. We're going to simply place them in each of the puzzle pieces. All you're doing is creating your 24-piece puzzle each and every day. Now, here's the thing. Say we get our 24-piece puzzle. Say it's all done. What do we do with it? Well, most of the time, people go ahead, they take the puzzle apart, they put it back in the box, put it back in the bag, wherever it is, and then they put it away. Here's the thing. If we're thinking that bag is our minds, it's like, oh yeah, I got it memorized. I can figure out. The sad thing is that bag of your mind, for the most part, it's got holes in it. Those pieces, those important pieces, are going to fall out. And when it comes time to put that puzzle back together again, i.e. continuing on with your other goals or making sure that you're getting the things done that you didn't recognize you had to do, if you don't have those pieces, you're not going to be able to put that puzzle back together, and you won't end up achieving your outcomes, right? It's really that. Think of it as that 24-piece puzzle. What actions must I take, right? Where am I taking the time to get those actions done? And then what am I doing to make sure that I've got everything? We want to go back to that box. We want to go back to that bag and ensure we're pulling out all the pieces that we need to complete that outcome.
It's you talked to me about this before, and it's such a great analogy because it's so visual, and I can see like every piece of the puzzle, 24 pieces, right? And I attribute it to finances and wealth, and in very much a similar fashion, in that most people, they try to save what's left after spending. But the problem is they spend everything. So then they tell everybody, or they tell themselves, more importantly, I don't have any money to save. But what you really need to do is you need to turn it on its ass, and you need to spend what's left after saving. And it's just a different way to look at the exact same situation. So you intentionally spend every dollar out, and you intentionally save every dollar out before you even get your check. Like, you don't wait to see and hope, because hope is not an investment strategy, right? Hope for good weather hope for the coronavirus to end soon, but don't hope for happiness. Don't hope for success. Don't hope for wealth. Like nobody's coming to save you. You got to put in the work. You got to do the reps.
Well, and that's absolutely true. And I like how you say that, right? Let's budget after you've done your saving. This is the same mentality, that same idea as with scheduling it out. Schedule out your payments. One of those payments has to be to yourself, because if you're not being, and here's a word that, we might have some negative connotation with, but if you're not being selfish for yourself, if you're not being selfish for yourself to set yourself up for those savings, I'll tell you what, no one's going to do it for you. It's up to each and every one of us to really schedule, be selfish about that savings part. I'm so glad you shared that, John.
Yeah, no, it's so critical. And it's funny you say selfish, because as you started to talk, I was like, I hope he says selfish. I hope he says selfish. Because I always think about it. I travel a lot, and I always think about it like the stewardesses on the airplane, or the flight attendants on the airplane. In case of emergency, low oxygen, the masks come down. You don't try to save your family. You save yourself first so that you can help your family. And so many people have, like you said, a negative connotation to selfish, but I think it's so critically important that if you're going to give your best version of yourself to your work, your peers, to your mission, to your family, to your lover, to your whatever, you have to make time for yourself, and you have to be the best version of yourself, which means you got to spend time working on it. There's no way around it. Otherwise, you're just going to be flatlining or probably declining.
And a big part of that is, again, I'm the scheduling guy and all that. When it comes back to that scheduling, where are you being selfish with your time to take care of all the things that you need to do, especially for yourself? The plane analogy, man, I love that one. Because I'll tell you what, if I'm up in that plane and I'm worried about everyone else and I pass out, I'm useless, right? I got to take that oxygen mask. I got to put it on me so that I can be even more useful. That savings account, whatever you're using it for, however you're using it. And John, I know you can share a lot with the viewers as to some great ideas, suggestions of what to do with it. But unless you're setting that aside for yourself, you're going to be that passenger that's passed out, that's not being productive for yourself, taking care of yourself and taking care of your family. I don't want to be the negative guy here, because we've got enough negativity in the world right now. But what I want everyone to see is the great opportunity to be selfish so that you can make an even bigger impact.
100%. And you said a word a little bit earlier that caught my attention, and it's time. And right now, I think is probably one of the rare moments in my adult life, at least, where people have an abundance of time, like whether they want it or not. Like if you're still working, you don't have a commute. If you're not working, you have way more time. Whatever, even if you are working full time, you're not going to soccer practice, you're not going to the gym, you're not going to the movie theater, the shopping mall. Like if you work 40 hours a week, 8 hours a day, you have more time now than you've ever had. So that's a good pivot into this is like, so now that people have time, how do they take advantage of it, right? Because if you're not intentional with your life, maybe I'm naive, but I believe that, at least in my own experiences, that, you start to get creep, and, dust starts to come in, the cobwebs start to get a little rusty, and all of a sudden, maybe you start to watch more Netflix than you should have, or maybe you start to sleep in, even though you were an early riser, or maybe you're not reading as much as you were, or exercising at home, because you lose that social, connection with people, and you lose that accountability, because right now we're inundated with negativity, like you said, right?
Yeah. Right now, right, we really do have a gift. If it's that extra commute time or whatnot, all we have to do is rearrange that time. If I know that it typically takes me a half hour, an hour to get into my work, and a half hour to get home, I've just given myself a beautiful gift of being able to repurpose that time. It's not like the time is just gone and I can just sit and Netflix and chill or whatever. And I'm not saying that's not important. We'll get into that. But quite literally, if I've got that extra hour, 2 hours a day, it's my responsibility to take full advantage of it. I've been given that gift, right? If Amazon shows up and it's a gift that someone's given, do you just leave that gift out on the porch for someone else to take it? No. You've got to be the one responsible for taking it back. And, schedule that time in. Figure out, okay, if it is this extra hour here, what actions can I take during this time to move me forward to my ultimate outcomes? What actions can I schedule in so that I know exactly what I'm doing? I don't have to go through the mental Rolodex in my mind of, okay, what have I got to do now? What have I got to do now? The whole idea of what have I got to do now? Epic time waster. Epic time waster. We don't ever want to be in that place where we're doing the mental Rolodex of what have I got to do now? What we want to do is take proactive control of that and figure out already what it is that we have to do. So my phone, like, quite honestly, my phone is my boss. Now, I don't look at it as a negative thing. I look at it as a real positive thing because I don't have to worry about it. Today, for example, I've got, I think, 5 or 6 Zoom calls that I'm doing today. That's the opportunity of right now. I wouldn't have been doing this had not been for the current circumstances in the world. I would be doing something different. This opened up some availability for me to do this. And so I'm not worried about time or, oh my God, who do I got to talk to next? Who's the next person up? It's all in my phone. I don't have to waste mental energy thinking about it because I've taken proactive control of that schedule, set myself up for success with that. It tells me what to do. Makes it really simple for me.
And it's funny you say that, and it sparked a memory in my own, experience that I'm pretty ambitious, pretty hungry, want to go kill it, want to go get it. But one thing I discovered over the last year to year and a half is I wasn't making time to make time.
Yeah.
I wasn't scheduling in time to schedule. So I would show up on like a Monday, or I'd finish a workout and I'd be like, I'm going to kill it. And then I'd sit there and I'd be like, all right, what am I going to do? And then the first thing that catches your attention, usually the thing that's the loudest in the room, is like, okay, I'm going to do that. And inevitably what I found is like, no matter how many tasks I had, no matter if the house was burning down and I had emails and phone calls and the business was on fire, inevitably all of a sudden, the most important thing for me is to clean my desk. It's like I've got hundreds of thousands of dollars on the line in receivables. I've got clients who want to hire us. Boom, boom, boom. And it's like, man, I could really, I could use a new pen.
Yeah. And there's a psychology behind that. There's actually a psychology that puts us in that place where we're looking for those things. Because let's face it, if I've got a set amount of time, half hour, whatever it is, well, I can't go and, write a whole course in an hour, right? The course, it's too big, but I can clean my desk, right? I can get my desk cleaned up. I've got a win. Yay. Here's the thing though. That win doesn't take you to your ultimate outcome. That win, cleaning your desk, doesn't get you to that place where you ultimately need to be. Here's the thing, and I'm so glad you touched on this, John, because it brings up the idea of size. Right? I'll come back to my puzzle analogy for a moment. Everything's got a size. There's different pieces, different sizes, and they all fit in the same place. One of the things we have to recognize is our ability to sit and do one task and for how long that is. Many people say, okay, this is an 8-hour task, 10-hour task. I'm just going to sit down and do it. I would highly doubt that a person can actually do that without taking a pee break, without taking a stretch break, micro break, or something like that. Successfully work for 10 hours straight, right? What I suggest people do is figure out what's reasonable. Okay, can I actually sit for an hour? Can I sit for 2 hours? Maybe 3. I know for myself, 2.5 hours, I'm getting a little fidgety. 3 hours, I'm shot. I'm looking to clean the desk again.
Yeah.
But quite honestly, at that point there, if we know that our maximum time is 2 hours, 2.5 hours, don't schedule anything bigger. Break it down into those small pieces. Let's come back to the course now. Recently, I had created some courses and stuff, and I was on my 3rd program that I was in the process of writing. I had made the big, bold statement that September 15th of 2019, I'm going to have this course out. Guess what? September 15th came and went. October 15th came and went. You know what? So did November 15th. It came and went too. And I hadn't got the course done. And this got me thinking about this. It's like, well, Jamie, man, you're the guy that prioritizes his time. You're the guy with the mindset. You're the guy finding the opportunities. What happened? So I had to do a bit of an analysis of it. I had to really think about, why didn't I get that done? And the answer came to this. Everything that I saw, my outcome, my result was create course content. Create course content. And it was big, right? Quite literally, I knew it was going to take me in excess of 20, 25 hours to write it all up, create it, do all that sort of stuff. Well, 20, 25 hours never seemed to fit in those 1 or 2 hour blocks that I had. The piece was just too big. I couldn't get it going.
You got to jam it, like a puzzle, Jamie. You just got to
fit it. You know those pieces that don't fit, and you're just like, it's got to be the right one. No. I know, funny, right? Because we all know that. As we're talking about it, we can all see ourselves trying to jam that one little puzzle piece. I've done it.
Oh, yeah.
Here's the thing, though. That whole create course content, it was just too big. And I'd say, well, yeah, it's there. I know it's there, but I can clean my desk again. And I love the clean desk analogy. What I had to do was break it down into smaller pieces. I had to chunk down those actions. What did that mean for me? Well, it wasn't create course content. It was create the first half of chapter 1. Light bulb moment. Because everything changed in that moment. Create first half of chapter 1. Well, man, I can do that in like an hour, hour and a half. Now I'm getting the satisfaction out of getting done what I knew I could get done. Same as cleaning the desk. There's that psychology again. I'd bang it out. At the end, it's like, I got the first half of chapter 1 done. Yes. And I would celebrate that fact. This is that mentality. This is that psychology of really getting stuff done and taking advantage of this extra time. If you don't proactively do it, if you don't proactively take charge of this extra time that we have right now and these extra opportunities, you're going to miss out. And you'll be like me 3 months down the road saying, geez, I wish I shoulda, coulda, woulda. And none of us want that.
No, for sure, man. And as you're talking, I was trying to put myself in people's shoes right now who are going through this, right? Because maybe you're in the United States and you're having a different experience than we are in Canada, or maybe you're in Spain or Italy and having a much different experience, right? So my hallucination is that a lot of people might be frozen. They know that they want to do something, whatever it is, right? Maybe it's just work out. They know they'd feel better if they work out. They want to clean their garage. They want to get something done with the spare time that they have now, but they feel frozen. Any insight, tips, any strategies on how people can kind of get unstuck? Because, I have one. I'll kind of answer my own question and let you go. Don't look at this first thing in the morning. That's like, for me, that's a sacrosanct rule. I don't look at it because sure enough, life is going to demand your time. It's going to, distract you, work, this, email, stress, update from the government, blah, 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 blah. And it's all negative, right? It's not good. But that's my tip. But what can people do to get unstuck?
Okay. Excellent question, John. Excellent question. I do something, and it's going to tie into some of what we've already discussed here. One of the big things is scheduling in time to schedule. You brought that up earlier, having that time. But what it really is it comes back to understanding what life's all about for you. A beautiful question I like to ask, and this is one of my golden questions, is I'll ask that question, what's life all about for you? Well, life's about my kids. Life's about my family. Life's about growing my business. Life's about getting a sustainable wealth portfolio so I don't have to worry later on. With each and every one of those things that life's all about from you, I have to believe that there's a couple things that are important. Number one, your reason why. We got to know why. Why is it important for me to have a sustainable wealth portfolio that's going to lead me through my retirement, all that sort of stuff? Why is that important? There's also the steps that I have to take in order to make that happen, in order to put that into effect. So it all starts from this. What is my outcome? I want to start with that outcome in mind first. I want to know what it's all about. I want to know what it is that I'm about to achieve. I get really associated in with my outcome. If it is writing a book, if it is learning more about options, if it is learning more right now about SEO, website development, whatever it is that you're interested in, number one, we've got to recognize that what do you want to do? What's life all about for you? What would make your life even more fulfilling if you were to take those actions right now? That's another big one. We've got to come up with that. Now, that's just a start. That's going to point us in the right direction. If we had a cannon, we're kind of getting it pointed in the right direction, but we've still got to light the fuse. right? We've still got to get that cannonball out there.
Yeah.
So what's the next part of it? The next part is discovering your reason why. We've got to know this. We've got to know why we're doing anything. There's an excellent exercise that I've used. It's called the 7 levels deep. And it digs into why you must achieve whatever it is that you want to achieve. It basically goes in, and the premise of it is asking a very similar question over and over and over 7 times. Why is it important to you to, and then you fill in the blank with the last answer you gave in the previous question. You ask that 7 times, it's really going to associate that. I did a training on that this morning, walked a group of people through that, some people in the real estate industry. I walked them through that, and it was profound. It was impactful. I shared my example there. And what started out as business goals, because I'm a business coach, I work with businesses, it went away from the business aspect, and it actually got into something that was really personal for me. Right? It touched on me being able to easily and effortlessly, sustain my family in no matter what happens. Me leaving something, leaving that legacy in behind. Right? It was impactful for me, and it was very personal. We need that why to make it personal. Last but not least, it's the navigation of how to get there. Right? My goal was me sharing even more content, going on more stuff like we're doing here today, getting my voice heard in a much bigger venue. One of the action items, I'm doing it right now. Now, how did I get it done though? Because I could have said, well, John approached me, I think it was a few days ago, a week ago or whatnot. He says, hey, do you want to come on? Now, I could have made up the story. Geez, man, I'm really busy. I'm this, I'm that, but I chose not to. Because what I had done in the past, maybe a few 4, 5, 6 years ago, is I would have shied away, right? I would have played small. What I recognize is that for me to achieve my outcome, I had to take some steps that are going to break me out of that mold, that are going to help me to grow. My why did that for me. It associated me so strongly with that outcome that, no matter what came up, no matter what roadblock, I would have done anything and everything to be on here today. It's the why that propelled me. And now it's simply about taking the actions. What actually gets me taking the actions though? Again, come back to the puzzle analogy. This here, it's going to take us an hour, hour and a half to do this. What did I do? I scheduled in that spot, but most importantly, I did it all at least the night before. Now, there's some psychology behind this as well. I'll share a little bit of the story on it because scheduling it the night before for me was profound. I used to do my scheduling in the morning. The idea being, okay, I'm up, I'm fresh, I'm ready to go. Let's schedule out my day. Here's the thing with that though, is oftentimes, and maybe this is just something with me, I found myself not being able to sleep because all these thoughts about what I had to do were running through my mind. I'd wake up 2, 3 in the morning, wouldn't get a good restful sleep because I'm like, oh, did I get that? Did I remember that? Did I pay this bill? Did I do all that stuff? When I took the proactive action of doing it the night before, and speaking of when to schedule, I schedule my day up between usually 6 to 6:30 or 6:30 to 7. That is my time that I set aside to schedule out my day, to set my phone up as my boss to tell me exactly what to do. That there is one of the biggest things that I can do to get my outcome. Now, I call this the own achievement method. Define your outcome, recognize your why, and look at the navigation you have to take, the actions you must take in order to achieve your outcomes. When you take action on this, no matter if it's a big outcome or if it's a small outcome, you will move forward. The key here is taking action. Now, John, I'd like to hear from you on this. I'm going to turn this back around on you.
Yeah.
You and I, we've talked about this. We've talked about some of these ideas, some of these practices and all that. Where have you put some of this to work in your life? And what have you seen for some of your outcomes?
Yeah. So like the reason I'm doing this call in the first place is because I've had goals that have gone unchecked for too long. And, you get fired up about it and then you fizzle out, or I fizzled out because I didn't know how. Mm-hmm. And I let the lack of resources, the lack of understanding stop me. I'd get going and then it was like, oh, you run into a roadblock. Oh, I don't know how to do this, or I don't know how to do that. And then that voice in the back of your head is like, well, maybe you just shouldn't do it. And eventually I got to a point before the coronavirus really kicked off that I just said, you know what? If I look forward 5 years from now and if I look backwards 5 years from now and I ask myself, are you happy that you waited? You know, I was like pissed off with myself. I was viscerally mad. Like, are you kidding me? 5 years is an eternity, man. 5 years is a long time in life. Life can change in a heartbeat, as we've seen very recently. I was like, I can't wait 5 years. That's a disservice to the people I want to impact, because what I used to believe was I want to get into the wealth education business because I want to have a good income. That's what I believed, or that's what was my hallucination, probably from movies. Anybody to do with finance was always wearing a suit with big gaudy rings and looked rich. And so for me, I thought it was for finances, right? I thought it was for finances. And then as I started to accumulate financial wealth in the last few years, I started to realize, like, I can make money doing a million things, man. Like, and in my current setup, I have a very good life. Like, from most people's standards, I make what a doctor or a surgeon makes per year. I work 6 to 7 months a year. I travel 3-4 months a year. Most people would be like, man, you got it made. What the hell are you complaining about? And what I realized was I wasn't impacting people. I wasn't giving back and helping people move forward. It was all about me. I'm benefiting. I'm moving forward. But my happiest moments were when I was like, I'll call it coaching, because I didn't intend to do it, but maybe you call me up and you're like, man, I'm so frustrated. Like, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to invest in, or I'm just pissed off my credit card bill. And I'm sitting there like, yes, let's talk about this. I got a million ideas and this and that. And if you tried this and tried that and credit card arbitrage and this and that, and I would just be like on fire. I'm not making $1 from this person. I don't benefit from this at all. They benefit. The way I benefit indirectly is this sense of fulfillment and this huge, massive gratitude and this gratefulness to be able to impact somebody else's life. So finally, in middle of January, early February, early February, when I got back from South America, I was like, it's go time. It's absolutely go time. I cannot wait any longer. And so I started, and then the coronavirus hit, and I had a goal to create, before the coronavirus happened, I had a goal to create 650 pieces of content for the rest of 2020, which basically equated to posting it out on 2 platforms a day, or possibly doing 2 pieces of content, or doing 10 or something, and then not doing any for a while. It was realistic, but I wasn't intimidated. I wasn't scared. So I haven't reset that goal yet. I need to. I've just been actively taking more action towards it, and I'll far surpass that 650. It's been a month and a half, and I think I've created about 100 so far. So it's like my goal for 11 months was basically 100 a month. It was 50 a month, and I've doubled that in the first month. And now I've got the learning curve down. Now I've figured out the little hacks and this and that. So now I expect that to even accelerate even more. And the reason I'm doing it is not to make money. It's to impact and help people, because I see real people being harmed by this, and they're really stressed out. They're really frustrated. They're really angry. They're sad. They're depressed, and they're stuck. And I felt like it was my moral obligation to help because I could. We came back early February from South America, and I think it was March 3rd. I had a plan in place. I had a worst case plan, a best case plan. I'd already called my mortgage broker, figured out what our buyout penalty was on that. I'd already taken out physical cash out of my bank account. I'd already gone, stocked up supplies. Like, before it was even a health crisis in Canada, I was already done. I'd already figured out how much cash the company could survive on, how long we could run it out. So I was done. I was perfectly fine, and I wasn't stressing. But then I started to see all these people panicking, and inevitably, without understanding it and without doing it intentionally, people started to call me. People started to ask me, what are you doing? What's going on? What do I do? This is my situation. And because I had taken care of myself, because I had planned and prepared and I had the mental clarity and the space, I was able to give them help and give them hope and give them actionable items. And I'm happy to say that a lot of them took my advice. And I've seen the material impact in their lives because I can hear it in their voice. You know, they were panicked, they were stressed, and the situation has only gotten worse, but their voice, their tone has gotten better and better because they're optimistic that they're going to make it through this and they've got their best case, worst case plan figured out. So to continue building on what you're talking about, what have I done? I schedule it. I break it down into small chunks. I take that 650 pieces of content and then I say, okay, 2 a day. And then I say, okay, when am I going to do the 2 a day? And for me, I'm like, okay, I know it's not realistic to do 2 a day every day just because the way my life is. So I'm going to do 10 on a Saturday, you know, and I'm going to build and maintain a buffer of about 5 to 10 always just have a cache. And that way, if something happens, I get sick, I forget, whatever, I've got stuff I can draw from. But I was able to take that 650 pieces of content and break it down. And if I didn't, I'm sure I would have been stuck at the starting line being like, oh man, 650 pieces of content. How do you do that? That's huge, man. And then I execute on it. I'm a naive, optimistic person. And I say naive because it's like, I know what I'm capable of. Then I push myself past what I'm capable of. And then I push myself past what that's capable of. But to the point where it's like, that's not actually realistic. Maybe just pull it back a little. And you really helped me see this because I was filling my day with like 90%. I'd have my whole schedule, right? It was like, it was just blocked from 6 a.m. through 8 p.m. every day, 5 days, 6 days a week. It was every half an hour to an hour chunk was blocked. But then of course you sleep in 15 minutes. Now your whole day is paying catch up. And then a task that you thought was going to take 30 minutes actually took 45. So now you're 30 minutes behind. And then I forgot to schedule to go have lunch. Oh, well, now I'm 45 or 50 minutes behind. And I started to get stressed about it, thinking that I was a failure because I wasn't achieving what I thought. So I've left myself a lot more latitude now. And I only schedule right now, probably 40 to 50% of my day. And I'm able to execute and finish that 40 to 50% almost every day. And so I feel great.
That right there is going to change your mindset and your mentality about everything. If you're in that place where you're scheduling 80, 90% and you find that consistently something's popping up, something's happening, you're going to bring that stress on. You're going to create your own stress by, accounting for every single minute of every single day. That's a little bit too much. What we want to do, as you were sharing that, the thought that popped into my mind is like timing on a vehicle. Right? So what do? We got the old distributor in there, right? Back in the days when we still had distributors and stuff. And what would you do? You'd advance it. You keep advancing it till it would just start to ping, knock it back a degree or two, and you're good to go. That's where you set your timing in. This is what you're doing. You're beginning to recognize, okay, what is the point where I start to ping, i.e. where I'm overloading myself? And then you just knock it back. Take it back that 1 degree, that 2 degree, set it for there until you get comfortable with it, until you get really proficient. You shared another key thing there. Social media is becoming even easier for you because the more you do it, the simpler it becomes. You're learning how to edit the videos, get all the stuff out there. I'm a big believer in social media. I'm a big fan of social media. It's the key right now. The easier it becomes, the quicker you get to do it, the more that you can get done. We have to remember to give ourselves that little bit of patience though. To think someone's going to come on right away, day one, and just start cranking out stuff like crazy, we're setting ourselves up for success. We've got to have that little bit of grace. We've got to have that little bit of time to be able to learn, to be able to become masters of the craft. And how do we become a master? Through repetition. It's doing that same thing over and over and over, knocking off that little 1% of time each time. There's one other thing, and I want to make sure that your viewers don't gloss over this, because another thing you said is the belief that you could. You didn't set that 650 pieces of content out there and say, man, yeah, it's a good number, but there's no way I can do it. This goes all the way back to Henry Ford. And this is really profound.
Yeah.
Because if you think you can, Or if you think you can't, you're right. Which story do you choose? This is all about focus, and this one is so important. You asked me earlier, how do I keep moving? How do I move forward when I'm stuck? Well, the first one is having a system, having a plan. I use my own achievement method. But the second way is getting focused in on what I want, not what I don't. Right? A lot of stuff going on right now. Both you and I, John, we've shared out some positive things and all that. Sometimes it's met with a lot of a positive response, and occasionally, sometimes it's not met with as much positive response. Like, don't you see what's going on? We're both very well aware of what's happening in the world, and I'm choosing to believe what is about to happen. This too shall pass. Right? Ultimately, yes, we're going to get through this on the other side for sure, and that's where my focus is going to be. I want to focus in on all the good. I want to focus in on the outcome when we're setting ourselves up for an even more magnificent year. When we focus in on that, when we focus in what we truly want, not like, oh gosh, I want to lose $100,000 or $1 million in the stock market. Yeah, I want to lose that. No, I don't think anyone focuses in on that. All we have to do is take that and apply that into our life. We have to give ourselves a reality check. Is what I'm focusing in on right now, is what I'm thinking about right now, what I really want? If the answer is no, and you got to be truthful with yourself, if the answer is no to that, no, this isn't what I want. I want more success, more happiness, more joy, more money, whatever it is, more business. If that's where your focus is and you're saying, my gosh, nothing's happening, everything's closed, we're going to fail. If that's where that focus is, you've got a discongruency. We've got to get congruent there and really say, okay, what is it that I truly want? What's life all about for me? Is my focus also on that same point? Is my focus leading me towards that ultimate outcome? If yes, great, double down on that, triple down on that. If not, change the focus. Because focusing on what we don't want will most certainly get you that outcome.
Yeah, man, it's I'm just lapping up what you're saying as you're talking, and if you've got a lot more, I'd love to keep talking. I don't want to cut it short, but I just feel like that's such a beautiful place to end.
Yeah.
Because people have actionable items that, they've got enough, I think, to take away and to really work with. And I don't want to overwhelm people either, because I don't want them to open the Zoom call and be like, an hour and 10 minutes, man. I don't want to watch that.
Exactly.
So anticipating
I'm good with that, because I have a feeling, I have a belief, a hallucination. This is by far from our last Zoom call. I got a hallucination there.
Yeah, I've got the same hallucination, man. Absolutely. You never know who's listening. You never know who needs this message at this moment. And that's what I'm hoping to do with these interviews with the experts, as I'm calling them, and just the right time, the right place, the right person, the right moment. They just click, and all of a sudden it's like, that's what helps to get them unstuck. That's the piece of the puzzle that was missing. That just gets them out of a funk, or just moves them forward, or allows them to think about somebody else, or whatever it is. So yeah, thank you so much for your value. Thank you so much for your expertise, your opinion. You got to check this guy out. Jamie is the real deal, man. I've been coaching with him for over a year now, and he's a great friend. He's become a very good friend of mine. If people want to get a hold of you, what's the best way?
Definitely a couple ways you can get a hold of me. You can email me directly. You can get me at info, I-N-F-O, at UE, that's like Ultimate Empowerment Coaching, info@uecoaching.com. Or you can check me out on the web. I've got a website, www.uecoaching.com. And of course, social media. Instagram is @UECoaching, and pretty much any other platform. If you search it up under UE Coaching, you're going to come across me.
Cool, man. Perfect, dude. Thank you so much again, Jamie. I can't wait to have another chat, and all the best to you and your family.
Awesome, brother. Thank you so much for having me on today.
You bet. Have a great weekend. Talk to you soon.
You betcha.
Bye.